A hard-fought 3-2 victory for Boston. But the post-game celebration is all about the Bruins family tonight, as head athletic trainer Don DelNegro completes his 2,000th game with the club.
Sit down and
about the game.
Obviously, you guys all know Don is 2,000 game tonight. So just last time on behalf of all the players, obviously all the staff, coaches, I'm sure. We thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. What you do for us every day, it's been absolutely amazing, and for so long. You know, it's actually a privilege to have you. You know, it's unbelievable the way you treat yourself and us, and you present the Bruins for so long. So, you know, we are so happy for you.
Guys, thank you so much. It's a lot of hockey. I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't love you guys. And I do enjoy my job. I know I don't show it every day, but I love what I do, and I love you guys, and I couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you.
We are lucky to have Don DelNegro, the head athletic trainer for the Boston Bruins, here for a Q&A session for all of our community to listen to, tune into, and learn from. Don is in his 27th season as the Boston Bruins head athletic trainer. Prior to joining the Bruins, he spent 5 years at Williams College as the director of sports medicine, where, little known fact, he was the director of sports medicine for our own assistant head of school, John Spear, who played on the Williams College hockey team at that time. He also served as the head athletic trainer for the U.S. Olympic bobsled and luge teams at the 1992 Olympic Games in Albertville, France, for Team USA at the 2005 and 2007 World Hockey Championships, and as the head trainer for the U.S. men's hockey team at the 2006 Olympic Games in Turin, Italy. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in athletic training from Westfield State University, where he is a 2011 inductee into that school's Hall of Fame. And he has a Master's of Science degree in the same field from Indiana State University. He was honored with the honorary doctorate of humane letters from Westfield State in 2013. Don, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Gino. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Great. We're lucky to have you. I think the first question is, during this lockout scenario and everything going on where the guys aren't playing, are we getting out on the golf course at all?
Just a little bit. They just opened up the golf courses here in Massachusetts last week, maybe 10 days ago. So it's been hard to get out there because everyone's trying to get out. So getting the tee time's a little tough, but been out twice, so it's been good.
Perfect. Good to hear. The weather should be good, so we need to get out more now.
Definitely. Definitely.
So I guess the first question that we have for you here is becoming an athletic trainer. Would you speak to how you became an athletic trainer, when you first got interested in this field, and what did your educational experience entail?
Back in the 70s, I was in high school from 76 to 1980. Athletic training was kind of a new profession in the world of sports. A lot of teams had trainers. They were people who took care of players' injuries and things, but they weren't necessarily formally educated for the job. And during the 70s and early 80s, athletic training started to become more profession. Colleges and universities started offering majors in athletic training, and it slowly progressed over the last 25, 30 years to what we know today. Back in high school, my senior year of high school, we had an opportunity to take a basic athletic training course and first aid class instead of a phys ed class. And I thought that'd be really interesting. I really liked our trainer at the school at the time. He was a good guy. I played football, so I knew him for all 4 years. And he thought I would enjoy the class. Took it. I did. I enjoyed it a lot. I realized my athletic prowess wasn't as good as my ability to tape ankles. So decided that I think it'd be better for me to go to school and become an athletic trainer rather than try to be an athlete. So went to Westfield. back then it was an undergraduate degree in physical education with a concentration in athletic training. It wasn't even a major or a minor at that point. So you just took a lot of classes in athletic training, probably 5 or 6 extra classes beside our normal phys ed type classes. And that's how it all started. And through the years, it's progressed into the profession we know it is today with formal education, master's degrees, PhDs, a real allied health profession. So that, went to Westfield, got a really good undergraduate practical experience, learning how to tape ankles, learning how to treat injuries, first aid, that type of thing. But I didn't know why. I didn't know what I was doing. Why was I taping an ankle this way? Why was I doing ultrasound for 6 minutes? Why was I putting a hot pack on a player instead of an ice pack? So I knew what to do, but I didn't know why I was doing it. So I felt that I really needed to go and get a more clinical education to better understand what I was doing rather than just being a monkey and doing something because I was told to do it. So that's when I decided to go and get a master's degree in athletic training at Indiana State. And that's kind of where I learned the theory behind everything we do. What every piece of tape does when you put it on a player's ankle or his wrist or his knee, whatever, ultrasound, why we do it for 6 minutes, why we do, hot packs for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, things like that. So the theories behind it.
Great. And I think I have this right, that your career started at Williams College. Was that the first professional job you had in the athletic training world?
No, I actually started 2 years at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid.
Okay, that was before Williams. Okay.
Yeah, so I graduated from Indiana State in '86, and I got the job at the Olympic Training Center, started there in July, worked there for 2 years as a assistant athletic trainer, seasonal athletic trainer, whatever you want to call it. And then in '88, the job opened up at Williams, and that's when I went there for 5 years, from '88 to '93. And had the pleasure of working with John Spear.
There we go. Perfect. Spearsy.
Yeah.
So in terms of working at Williams and working with U.S. Olympic teams and then now the Bruins, is there a different approach with these programs? Williams being a small Division III program, the bobsled team being elite athletes trying to obtain a goal every 4 years, and the Bruins being one of the strongest organizations in the history of the NHL?
It's subtle. I mean, athletes are athletes, no matter what level you're at, whether you're at Division III, Olympic level, professional sports. Athletes are athletes. They all want to play. They all want to compete. If they get injured, they want to get better so they can get back out there. So our role as an athletic trainer doesn't change much. Our job is to try and get the players back on the field as quick as possible or back on the ice. So the athlete's mentality is very similar. Their performance is different. The hockey player at Williams is different than the hockey player at the Olympics or with the Bruins or in the NHL, but their desire to play and compete is still the same. And I think you even find that at Northwoods. I'm sure, the kids there really want to get back and they enjoy it. They compete because they love to.
Yeah. So you would say that one of your main jobs is to safely, but the quickest manner possible, to get these athletes back to where they need to be to continue their training or their games.
Right, exactly. That's kind of one of the fun things about our job, is trying to shave time off an injury and get a player back as fast as you can. Finding, a better exercise technique, finding a better treatment technique, finding a better stretching technique, finding a better performance, whether it has something to do with, changing their nutrition during their injury so they lose some weight and lose body fat and get a little faster because we reduce some weight and percentage of body fat, and whatever we can do to get a player back faster. For an athletic trainer, our only game is getting a player back faster. If we tell a coach he's going to be out for 4 weeks and we can get him back in 3, that makes us feel good.
And I think, to follow up on that question, how has the profession changed, especially over your 27 years with the Bruins?
Immensely. 27 years is a long time. Doesn't sound it. When I first started with the Bruins, I was the only athletic trainer with the organization. I had an assistant athletic trainer / physical therapist who stayed home with our injured players and helped on game nights at home at the Garden. But on the road, I was by myself. It was myself and two equipment managers took care of the whole entire team. Now, jump ahead 27 years later, we have 3 athletic trainers. 2 of them are physical therapists. We have 2 strength conditioning coaches. We have a nutritionist. We have 2 sports psychologists. We have a massage therapist. We have 4 equipment managers now, and it's amazing how big and how large our group is now to take care of the players.
And that's probably one of the. I know that the technology has gotten better. Education of everything has probably gotten better, but your support staff and who you work with might be one of the biggest changes, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, every team has large staff now, but 25 years ago, if I was even to ask for help, it would have been like, well, why can't you do it yourself? They didn't understand what we were doing down in the locker room, down in the weight room, down in the training room. And now that some of the younger NHL players from the 90s are now in positions of coaches and general managers, they really understand what an athletic trainer can do. And so they're very supportive of us and getting us all the help we need to do our jobs.
And sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it was just funny because when we were thinking about the question, 27 years ago, we didn't have cell phones. After a morning skate, if we had a game or if we were on the road for practice, I literally would have to go to a payphone and use a AT&T credit card, call back to our doctor. Hopefully he was in his office, not in surgery. If he was, I had to wait around until he got out of surgery to keep dialing back, because he couldn't call back to the payphone at the rink I was in. So I was sitting by payphones for an hour a day, just trying to get our doctors, trying to get in touch with our general manager. It was really difficult. You couldn't leave the office until you got all your administrative work done. So you were kind of handcuffed to being near the telephone. Now with a cell phone alone, that's made the job so much different. Now throwing computers, it makes it completely different. So it's been a big change just with computers and cell phones. I know it sounds funny to the kids out there, but it's amazing the difference being able to have that. The difference also is management and coaches, and everybody wants their answers right away. There is no delay. Right. You have to answer once it rings.
Right. And I think that was, my next question was going to be, how has the organization's outlook on your role changed, and how do the players, outlook on your role change? And I'm guessing that the old adage was rub some dirt on it and get back out there. But now it seems like they want you need to be as healthy as you possibly can be. So you might be looked at more, I guess, in a better light, maybe over the course of the time, I would think, in terms of, oh no, it's no longer, oh no, Don's here, I got to run the other way, I got to go to Don for help now. Right,
exactly. About 15 years ago, I met with a sports performance director for Bolton Brahmins, which is a soccer team in England, one of the Premier League, soccer teams in England. And he came over to find out how our system worked, what our model was. And he was kind of shocked back 15 years ago what we were doing compared to what they were doing. Now we're doing what they are doing in Premier Soccer leagues. Basically, their model is, at the time they had a $36 million payroll, and Bolton's team decided that we're only going to spend $33 million on player salaries and use the other $3 million to take care of that $33 million worth of athletes. Where other teams over there were spending $36 million on their players, trying to get a guy for another $2 million to come to their team, but then they had no money to take care of them. His philosophy was like, we just bought a Ferrari, but we don't have a mechanic to take care of it. And this Ferrari is now in the garage with the wheels off because there's no one there to take care of them. So they went out and they've hired, they had at the time 3 or 4 massage therapists. They had 2 team services people, one for the players, one for the players' wives, to take care of their needs. Over in the soccer world, it's different from the NHL. They have players from all over the world, culturally, different religions. In the NHL, we're a little lucky. We kind of all come from the United States, Canada, Europe. Over in the soccer leagues, you could have a player from Israel and a player from the Middle East, a player from Japan and a player from Mexico or Brazil. So to get all these people together, they need a lot of help. And we started listening to that and looking at that model and going, you know what? They're kind of right. We need to spend money on taking care of our Ferraris. So getting a nutritionist to make sure we put the right fuel in them, getting massage therapists to make sure that the car is always tuned up, feeling good, getting extra trainers and physical therapists to take care of any injuries and help prevent any overuse injuries from happening in the first place, using biometrics. Sports psychologists, we have two, one for sports performance and one just for behavioral health. Just, everybody has life problems. Everybody's moms and dads might be getting divorced, or a death in the family, or girlfriends breaking up with them. So we have a psychologist just to help with that role. You know what I mean? And
right.
So we're a broad spectrum, and we're trying to keep the Ferrari running. That's the whole
right,
concept.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm sure Mr. Jacobs wants that to happen.
Yeah. It takes a while. It's a whole paradigm shift. You're right. 25 years ago was spit on it, piss on it, tape it up and go. You know what I mean? Like, just get the guy out there. If he can't play, we got another guy. Now they're starting to realize, you know what? We don't have another Brad Marchand. We don't have another Patrice Bergeron. We've got to keep these guys on the ice. You know what I mean? So it's a change, mentality change. And
I didn't send you this question ahead of time, but that kind of made me think of asking this question about your relationship with the coaching staff and how you guys work together in terms of communication about players.
Yeah, every day. Every day we meet 2 to 3 times. And it's not a formal meeting. It's not like we go into a conference room, sit around a table and pull up computer charts and, but the coach will mosey in the morning at, 8:30 with a coffee and, hey, what's going on? Anything come up last night? Because things come up. Players get sick. Player might call me at 10 o'clock saying, hey, I'm laying here in bed. My back's killing me. Just to give me a heads up that, tomorrow I might need some treatment. I don't know what's going on, but I want to let you know so there's no surprises. So Coach Mosey's in, we talk informally. Is this guy playing, full contact, no contact? Is he on for the whole practice? Just that type of thing. After practice, we again review it, go over everybody. How did you do today in your practice? Did you do well? You're going to be okay to play tomorrow? You think you need another day? Meet with coach again informally, just, kind of see him in the weight room or he'll walk in the training room, whatnot. And if there's relevant information to get him, then make sure you seek him out. And then at the end of the day, somewhere mid-afternoon, I do write up a formal, injury report that goes to, the owner, general manager, president, coaches, and our doctors. So everybody is aware of the health and status of all the players.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No. And it sounds like communication is paramount in this profession, not just with your coaching staff, but also you have to be pretty blunt and honest with players at times too. Yeah.
Communication is huge from the standpoint that you have to mobilize quick. The player, we practice Monday at 11 o'clock and we're flying to Buffalo at 2 and the player's questionable. We need to know that morning so that we can call a player up from Providence and get him to drive up to Boston to meet us at the plane, rather than try and fly him from Providence to Buffalo the next day where it screws up his routine if he's got to play. So, knowing the status of the players all the time is important, and they don't like surprises at all.
Sure.
Like any
exactly.
coach.
Right.
It screws up your game plan,
Right.
Right. You'll practice different. You'll practice your power play different if Marshy's not there or questionable. You're going to have a different line. You're going to have a different setup. So if you don't get to practice it, you're not happy as a coach.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. We're going to go into a couple questions from our community now. One of our current parents sent in a question talking about nutrition. And recently Zdeno Chara was talking about his plant-based diet and talking about how much better he is feeling based upon this. Can you speak a little bit? Our students here in Northwood live a pretty busy lifestyle, especially our athletes, where it's school for 6 or 7 hours a day, then an hour and a half practice, plus a weight room session, then a study hall at night, and, typically going to bed, at the earliest 9:30, 10 o'clock. But, I know professional athletes look at things in a certain way, but in terms of diets, what would you recommend, or how would you mentor a high school athlete in terms of nutrition?
Basically, what I've learned through all my years, there's not one diet for everybody. You know what I mean? There is not one golden book, a Bible of nutrition that says, this is what you need to do. And if you don't do this, you won't succeed. What I've learned through the years is everybody has special needs that are unique to them. And what may work for Zdeno Chara won't work for somebody else. What works for Brad Marchand doesn't work for David Pasternak. Positionally, nutrition needs are different too. A goalie's needs playing 60 minutes a game is different than a fourth liner who's only going to play 6 minutes. So it's very important. My first advice is, if you could, meet up with a nutritionist. Have an informal or a formal meeting with a nutritionist to talk about your sport, what you do, what position you play, what your needs are nutritionally. Then you have to go over your history of your health history. Maybe there's something in there that needs to be looked at or investigated, and the nutritionist can help you make the changes or make a diet that's more specific to you. Like I said, just because it works for the best player on the team doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Zdeno is plant-based. He shifted to plant-based about 2 years ago for a couple of reasons. One, he's getting a little older. He needed to shed some weight. As we get older, obviously, we get a little slower. He's not going to deny that. So he can't play at 250, 255. He has to trim down. He's got to play at 240, 245. His minutes on the ice are being reduced as he gets older. So, we're getting more out of him because, we're getting the most out of him for the minutes he's playing. Mm-hmm. 5 years ago, he was playing 25 to 27 minutes a game. It was nuts. Now he's down to 19, maybe 21, 22, depends on, how many penalties we have. So he switched to the plant-based. He loves it. He finds a lot of success with it. He's a very focused athlete too. And I think he really enjoys the feeling that he's controlling a lot of his environment. And it's worked out great for him. It's worked out really well. Whether, other players could do that, it's a little difficult. It's very hard to eat a plant-based diet, especially when you're traveling professionally on the road. Right. Meals aren't easy to get, a little easier to do at home when you're cooking for yourself. When you eat on restaurants, 45, 50 times a year when we go on the road and lunch on the road, it takes a lot of dedication and hard work, but it works. It works for him. Not saying that's for everybody. So, you'd have to meet with a nutritionist to see what your needs are.
Okay, great. Thank you. This next question comes from Jeff Nemec, who's a current faculty member and also class of 2005. I'm a big Montreal Canadiens fan, and it was a lot of fun for a decade or so, at least when the Canadiens could compete in the rivalry with the Bruins. In 2011, down 0-2 in their first-round series up in Montreal, the Bruins took a pit stop in Lake Placid. How do you think that pit stop in Lake Placid propelled them to the comeback in that series and then eventually the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, well, it's tough for him that they couldn't compete for us for 10 years. We couldn't compete with the Canadians for 65, 70. So my heart doesn't bleed for him. So we got about 50 more years before we call it even. The Canadian Bruins Montreal Canadian Bruins rivalry is probably one of the best in hockey. I'm sure the Toronto Canadiens rivalry is big, but the Bruins Canadiens it's awesome. It's such a great place to go to and play. That year in 2011, we were first in the conference coming out of the East. Montreal was 8th, and they beat us twice at home, first 2 games at home, and we were in a hole. If you remember, earlier in that year, Zdeno Chara checked Max Pacioretty into the boards and unfortunately fractured his neck. Back in the days when the glass wasn't set up as safe as it is today. So there was a lot of uproar in Montreal from the fans that they wanted Zdeno arrested. They wanted him charged. And there was death threats. It was really serious. People, were pretty hostile. So we were really nervous to spend what happened was we played Monday, game 3 in Montreal. And we didn't play again until Thursday because there were some rock concerts up at the Molson Center. So coach and the general managers and I were sitting around like, what are we going to do? We can't sit up in Montreal. Tuesday is going to be a complete day off where the players can rest, but they can't walk around Montreal. It's not safe. Wednesday would be a practice day, and then we're kind of like, if there's only a place somewhere we could go and skate and get away from it all. And I kind of threw out Lake Placid because I knew it was kind of the dead time of year there. There'd be a lot of hotel rooms. The ice would be available. And they thought it was a super idea, 2 hours away. So we were lucky. We went up. We won game 3 in Montreal. got on the bus, headed to Lake Placid, got into Lake Placid. I don't know, I think it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Stayed up at the Crown Plaza. And then we had the next day off. Tuesday was complete day off. It was a beautiful day in Lake Placid, beautiful. Players walked around town. They went out, got good restaurant meals. They bonded, went over to the brew pub and had, lunch and dinner there and had a good night and just bonded. Wednesday we practiced, had great lunch there at, the 46, right on Main Street there, Simply Gourmet.
46 sandwiches, yeah.
Oh my God, the players love those sandwiches. They still talk about them today. Got back on the bus and drove to Montreal, and on Wednesday played Thursday, and we ended up winning 2 in Montreal. But one of the biggest things about it was I remember Claude telling the players that, we didn't have to go to Montreal and win 2 games. We were down 2-0. We had to go up and win 1 game. The thought of going up there and winning 2 games would have been daunting. Like you would have set up a negative, like there's no way we can do this, win 2 games in Montreal. He said, we just got to go win 1. And then all of a sudden that kind of became the mantra during the whole playoffs. We don't have to win 4 out of 7. We got to win 1. We got to win tonight. And that was the mantra. Just win tonight. You don't have, the mountain's too high to climb if you're looking up at it. If you look down at your feet and just go one step, you can get it done, was basically his theory. So that helped a lot going to Lake Placid. They really loved it. And the players that are still with us talk about it all the time.
We need to have you back. Once we get the NHL back up and going, we got to get the Bruins back.
They'd love to have that as a neutral site.
That'd be great. Perfect. Easy for you too.
Yeah.
This question's from Don Meller, who was a former Northwood goalie, class of 71, and also a current faculty member. But he was an old school goalie, and he also has a metal hip. But he's wanted to see what your thoughts were with the butterfly style and potential excessive stretching that goes along for it. And do you see long-term issues with the butterfly style that's prevalent now in the NHL?
Yes, definitely. We're seeing it already. It's a very difficult technique for the human body to do, especially the repetitive motion of dropping down in the butterfly. With the younger kids, especially as their bones are developing, behind the development of their muscles, that's where you start getting issues. The femur and the acetabulum and the ball and socket is being put in a position that the human body really doesn't like to do, and it's being put in it forcefully, rapidly, with a lot of amplitude and intensity. And so what we're finding are 2 types of issues where you get a little growth either on the femur part of the bone, or you get a growth in the rim of the acetabulum. It's called a cam and a pincer lesion. So the repetitive, as the goalies go down in the butterfly and they drop down, those bones bang into each other. When you're younger, it starts to model bone growths. And when you get those bone growths occurring, that restricts your range of motion, especially as they get bigger. So we're definitely seeing it in goalies at an earlier age, but we're also seeing it in our skaters also. And one of the other issues that we have going on in the world, it's not a surprise, is single sport athletes. All these kids are being focused on playing 365 days a year of hockey, 365 days a year of soccer, baseball, whatever it is. When we were growing up as kids, we're all multi-sport athletes. You went from football to hockey to golf, football, hockey to baseball. You always played 3-4 different sports. You never focused on one. And the good athletes just were good in all 3. Now, I know, just having a daughter who recently graduated from college, but high school a few years ago, she didn't get to play in a lot of the high school games because she didn't commit to going to the, travel teams. Even though she could have, she didn't want to, you know what I mean? So it forces the kids to focus on just one sport now, because there's a lot of pressure from coaches to succeed. And they want athletes that just focus on hockey or focus on soccer or focus on baseball. And that repetitive stress and repetitive trauma, we're starting to see a lot of, injuries, especially to the hip, because all kids do is skate now. They don't break it up in the summer, play Little League baseball or, golf or do things differently. They play a lot of hockey now.
And so what I kind of read into that answer too, in terms of your recommendation for how to alleviate some of the stress on the hip for a goalie, would be to stop playing goalie and play other sports for a little bit of time, break things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done. I mean, everybody
Right.
knows, when you're 13, 14, you're playing goalie to try and get a chance to come to Northwood and play. So you understand that, and so you have to play and play and play. Um, the problem is that 95% of athletes are never going to get that opportunity to go to Northwoods or get a college scholarship. 99% aren't going to ever make it to the professional level, but 70% of them are going to have hip issues. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's a very delicate balance for parents. You really got to look at your child and go, okay, is the reality here that they're going to, get an offer to go to Northwoods and be on one of the hockey teams at Northwoods and maybe go from Northwoods to BU or, St. Lawrence or Clarkson. Realistically, is it there? I mean, I know we all have dreams for our children, and we aspire and we want to do whatever we can to make it happen. But at some point we have to go back and go, is it really going to be worth it when they're 38, 40 years old and they have some hip issues and stuff? And it's obviously doesn't happen to everybody. And everybody's philosophy is it won't happen to me, but we really need to cross train more. We really need to find other activities for our young kids to do besides that one specific sport.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And you see it all the time in terms of articles and specialization and how to try and get away from it. But it's in our culture right now, and we need our kids to get out and do other things.
Right, exactly. And I also feel it makes you a better athlete because you use other muscles. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, if you're a goalie going down using, your primary muscles are your lower extremities and your arms, all of a sudden, if you go out and play golf or you go out and play baseball, you're using rotary muscles and different things. You're sprinting now, running instead of skating. So I think the reality is it makes you a better athlete.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you hit it on the head too when you said your best hockey players, you look a lot at their backgrounds. They did play multiple sports,
right?
And they a lot of times were the best player in that sport, as well. We had two people ask the same question: Rob Boak, who is a current parent, and Jeff Miller, who's a current faculty member. But basically, you hear that hockey players are the toughest athletes when you look at different articles and stuff like that. But over your course of time, there are a couple that stood out who were the toughest and more mental, physical toughness is, but that mental toughness. You're watching the Last Dance with Michael Jordan recently, and he's always been known for that mental toughness. But in terms of a couple guys that might have stuck out for their mental toughness.
Yeah. Well, one would have to be Ray Bort. I mean, he just mentally just was one of the best. There was a never lose in his brain. He just never thought about losing. He could be down 4-0, and his shoulders never slumped, and he never stopped talking on the bench. He never, didn't pump his players up and say, you know what, there's 7 minutes left. We're down 4-0. Let's just get out of here and not get hurt. Type of mentality. It was always, we're still in it, boys. We got a chance. Keep going. And would always go up the bench and pat players on the ass and whatever. He was mentally never quit. You watch him in all things, whether he was working out in the gym, lifting weights, playing hockey in practice, it was 100%. Zdeno Chara's the same way. Zdeno is a huge competitor. Never quit. Never say die. Physically, Zdeno is probably the toughest player I've ever dealt with. And I've seen injuries. I've known him the longest now. Him and Patrice. And the things I've seen Zdeno play with would just boggle your minds. You saw it last year in the Stanley Cup when he broke his jaw and had surgery and played 2 days later with a broken jaw and plates in it, played 3 games. And he never complained. Never even thought about saying, I'm not going to practice today. I'll be okay for the game, but I'm not. No, he showed up the next day. He didn't even come in the training room to say, this is killing me. Can I get some Tylenol? Nothing. It was just like, is Zdeno here today? And you walk in the room and there he was putting his skates on and, going out to practice like nothing ever happened. Patrice, you watch him play. I mean, he's one of the best athletes we've ever had. One of the toughest. He's played with injuries again that, no human should have played with. 2013 with the fractured ribs, 3rd-degree AC separation, MCL sprain. He could have tapped out in the first round and played through it all. So Yeah, hockey players are tough. I think it's in the breed. They start at a young age. It's the mentality of, play hurt, play injured, don't quit. It's probably unique. Some other sports, they tap out pretty quick and don't want to play. Worried about their career and their future. Hockey players are more team players, I find.
Yeah. In 2006, you had the opportunity to work with Team USA in the Olympics in Turin, Italy. What was that experience like where you got to work with 20 of the greatest American hockey players at that time, but also being in such a world stage as the Olympics?
Yeah, it's pretty unique, especially because, I think that was only the third time. I think 98 was the first year the NHL came in 2002 in Salt Lake. Then, so it was only the third time that the NHL players, played at the Olympics. So it was starting to get, ramp up a little bit, a little more excitement. All the players in the NHL wanted to play in it. They were kind of jockeying for that spot. So it was pretty fun to play with a unique elite group of players. And watch their preparation, their focus, and their desire to win. It seems to me, even like the European players, the Americans, Canadians, they really love playing for their country. They really enjoy it. They love that opportunity, and I know the players would love to keep doing it as much as we could. I know it's hard from the business side of it for the NHL to free up, athletes for 3 weeks and risk them to injury and losing a player, that type of thing. So, it's difficult, but I know the players love it, and they want to win. It's not like just going over for a 3-week vacation. It was intense, and they played hard. We didn't win, but they definitely tried. They competed.
I know that there's something at noon for you where you have to go hit a little white ball around the golf course. So I thought I would jump to our last question here. And again, thank you so much for your time. But to introduce the question a little bit, one of our students who is a one-year senior here named Luke French from Kansas City area actually did a senior project this year and just presented to some of the faculty about instituting a athletic training program here at Northwood. It's a 2-year type of program, and he's got it all laid out. Actually, I'm going to share it with you so you can maybe look at it and give it some feedback as well. But what type of advice do you have for a teenager who is interested in pursuing athletic training as a profession? And, how would you recommend them go about getting the proper experiences, education at the high school level, and then navigating the college process?
Right. Sciences, obviously, so if you're at Northwood, if you wanted to get into athletic training at the college level, you want to make sure you have your sciences at the high school level, your chemistry, biology, physics, anatomy, physiology. Those types of courses in high school will help you dramatically when you get to college and start to take them, at the college level. Courses. I personally, see it depends where you want to go with the job. If you want to get in professional sports, I think you really need to go down the road of physical therapy first, become a physical therapist, and then an athletic trainer, or become an athletic trainer, then expect to go back to physical therapy school, which is a little more difficult to do. But in professional sports, most of the new hires are physical therapists / athletic trainers. The reason I like it also, physical therapy, is there's a lot more jobs available. If it doesn't work out, you never make it to professional sports. There's more jobs available. There's more flexibility in the job. You can always be an athletic trainer if you're a physical therapist. If you're only an athletic therapist or an athletic trainer, you can't really go work in a hospital and do the same job as a physical therapist. So the two people we've hired in the last 4 years are both physical therapists and athletic trainers. So my advice would be get your grades up in high school, trying to get into physical therapy school first, and then the road to becoming an athletic trainer is a little easier for you. Trying to go athletic training and then get into physical therapy, it's a little more difficult. The grades have got to be astronomical, and it's a harder road to get to. There's not a lot of jobs in professional sports of athletic training. I would say in all 4 of the major sports, we're looking at probably 450 to 500 jobs. Mass General Hospital alone has like 350 physical therapists in one hospital in Boston. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, so I encourage people to become athletic trainers. It's a great profession. You're around sports all the time. The hours are long. You know what I mean? You're away from your families a lot. You're responsible for all emergency situations. So you may tell your family you're going to be home at 6 o'clock for dinner, but if there's an emergency, you might not be home till 9 or 10 because you've gone off to the hospital. So you really need a flexible family and a flexible family lifestyle. Pretty similar to being a coach. You know what I mean? You don't control your destiny all the time. You know, you could be on a road trip, the bus breaks down. You could be on a road trip and get snowed in. You know, it's a little more. It's a tough job that way. You know, you really need a family that really understands what you do and can roll with it. But if you get the job, it's great.
2,000 plus games, great for you. So what a career you've had. We hope to see you behind a bench here sometime soon so we can get the playoffs going. But if not, we'll see you in Lake Placid. Again, I thank you so much for your time, Don. This is great for our community, and wish you the best and your family the best.
Great. Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And hopefully I'll be up in Lake Placid in a little bit, hitting the ball around with you.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.